The Great Eight is the greatest goal scorer ever. That and a full recap of Sunday in the NHL right now on Locked On NHL Game Time.
When that final horn sounds, you know it's time for Locked On NHL Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before, only on Locked On NHL Game Night. Your team every day.
Hey, hockey fans, welcome to the inaugural episode of Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thanks for making Locked On NHL Game Night your place to get a recap of the night in the NHL. We are available 7 days a week, wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I'm Eddie Garcia, an LA Kings fan on the West Coast. He is Shukri Wrights, a Boston Bruins fan on the East Coast. And together we are bringing you all the goals, saves, big moments, and stories from the night in the NHL. Shu, we had 8 games on the schedule last night. We've got 11 days left in this regular season. The push to the playoffs is on. It is an exciting time to be an NHL fan.
It's an exciting time to be an NHL fan with the Stanley Cup playoffs approaching. And I got to tell you, days like today, we're reminded as to why we love hockey so much. And it truly was an incredible day for NHL fans all across the world. And I can't wait to sit here and talk about it with you.
And we have to start with the obvious, not only the top story in the NHL, but the top story in all the sports. The Washington Capitals were on Long Island to face the Islanders with superstar Alexander Ovechkin, 1 goal away from breaking a tie with Wayne Gretzky, the great one, to become the greatest goal scorer in NHL history. And the Great Eight gets it done with a power play goal in the second period for career goal number 895. Shu, will get your reaction to that amazing moment in a second, but let's check in with our local expert, the host of Locked On Capitals.
Alex Ovechkin is the greatest goal scorer of all time. Hi, this is Dan Holmey of Locked On Capitals. Well, remember where you are right here, right now, as Alex Ovechkin scores number 895 to overtake Wayne Gretzky as the greatest goal scorer of all time. And you're witnessing it not in some old archival footage, but in real time. We witness history as he scored number 895 from his office, the dot, to get it past Ilya Sorokin. Quite a moment as a Capitals fan. And this is a moment that's been building for quite some time. We saw him get 2 goals in the last game, and there was some question to me if he was going to get it done, but he gets it done in the matinee against the Islanders as he gets number 895. Capitals fans, let's get hyped. NHL fans, let's get hyped. Let's go Caps!
I think he's excited about this moment, and understandably so. And you think about it, the Washington Capitals, they're not exactly a marquee franchise. They've won a cup, but this is their moment as a franchise. A guy that they drafted, he's been his entire career as a Washington Capital, led them to a Stanley Cup, their captain, and now Alexander Ovechkin on top of the mountain is the greatest goal scorer in the history of the NHL. You can certainly understand why he'd be so excited about this.
It's very easy to understand why as a Capitals fan, but I'm going to take it a step further and look at it from a bird's eye view. As a hockey fan, and if you are a fan of the sport and you love the sport, this moment isn't just solely about what the Capitals just witnessed. It's about what we all bore witness to. Let's take it a step further. John Buccigross of ESPN said it best about 15 years ago, and he actually tweeted us out on record that he predicted that Alex Ovechkin would surpass Wayne Gretzky by the year 2025. Oh, what do you know? We are in the year of 2025. The only thing he didn't get right was today, but it's just crazy to think that 15 years ago that someone would actually correctly predict that one of the most fabled records in all of sports would be broken is completely unfathomable and unconscionable. And to take it even another level, and there's so many layers to this, Eddie. The other part of it that I look at is this. When it comes to Alex Ovechkin breaking Wayne Gretzky's record, is that once upon a time, there are certain records in sports, not just the NHL, that you could say, you know what, throw the key out. There's no way in heck that this record would ever be broken. In the NFL, hell, at one point, you could actually make the case that Emmitt Smith's all-time rushing record not going to be touched. In baseball, you could have actually made the case once upon a time that Babe Ruth's record wasn't going to be touched, but it got touched. Once upon a time in the NBA, you could make a case that Will Chamberlain's 100 points in a singular game is a record that could never be touched. But in the NHL, 894 goals, no one was touching that. Everybody thought it was safe. Never to even be sniffed if you were a goal scorer who was as sexy as Alex Ovechkin when he stormed into the league in 2005, 2006. What's incredible about this moment is the fact that when you talk about Ovechkin and the journey that he took to get to this moment, you talk about someone who had to accomplish having multiple 50-goal scoring seasons. He has 9 of them, tied with Wayne Gretzky for most of the NHL history. He's had to have multiple 40-goal seasons. He's had 14 of those, most in NHL history. And you talk about someone who had to wait out an entire blacked out season, 2004-2005, a strike-shortened season, 2012-2013, and oh, by the way, 2 seasons back-to-back that were impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. And yet, oh, by the way, cherry on the Sunday, he missed 16 games with a broken leg. And many of us were wondering, is he going to come back the same after the injury? And he climbed and conquered those mountains. That's why I am confident in saying that he is Alexander the Great, Alexander the Conqueror, and today, the greatest goal scorer in the history of the National Hockey League.
And there are very talented players in the league now. There are very talented players to come. There's going to be great goal scorers, but when you consider Alexander Ovechkin's consistency, his longevity, his durability, that's what makes him special. 41 goals this season, 895 now. This is a man that has averaged 44 goals for 20 consecutive seasons.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there may be guys who can score 40, 50 goals in a season, but to do it for 20 seasons, to be that consistent, to have that kind of durability, that's really what sets him apart from, a lot of other hockey players. He's certainly a very talented guy, but certainly a special athlete as well to be able to be durable. And as you said, coming back from an injury, it was like he was never hurt. He didn't need any time. He was right back in it and going after this record chase. And it was a rare instance, I think, where everybody on Long Island in attendance of that game actually went home happy. Yeah. All the Caps fans were happy because they saw history. And oh, by the way, the Islanders fans were happy because they won the game 4-1 to try and keep their slim playoff hopes alive. So everybody went home happy from that one. The Islanders are 7 points out of the final wildcard spot in the East. It's going to be a very difficult, but they're still alive. And I thought it was interesting, the goalie that Ovechkin scored on, Ilya Sorokin, a fellow Russian, he had never scored on him before. So he's the 183rd different goalie that Alexander Ovechkin has scored on. That's the most all time. But again, what a great moment for the National Hockey League. It was a great day for hockey. And I know I'm a West Coast guy. My team never had to go through Ovechkin to make it past, in a playoff series. I know you're an East Coast guy, being a Bruins fan. Yeah. I don't know. It seems to me like Alexander Ovechkin has been a wonderful ambassador for the sport. And I've always loved his enthusiasm for the game, the way he celebrated that goal, the Superman dive onto the ice at center ice there in New York. There's never been a guy more excited to score a goal, and he's done it obviously a lot of times. But I've always loved his enthusiasm. I think he's been a great ambassador for the sport of hockey. And again, it was just a great day for hockey all the way around.
It certainly was. And when you think about Ovechkin and the impact that he has made on this league, it's not just the fact that he broke Gretzky's record, it's the evolution of Ovechkin as a player. Like, I remember when he first came into the league and the fact that this guy can score 50 goals, but it was the punishing hits. It was the fact that he'll average 5 to 8 hits per game and yet score like 2 goals. But now he has become a lot more smarter. He's picked his spots as to when he wants to to distribute those hits and play a physical game. But now what you've seen now from Ovechkin is a lot more smarter and a lot more efficient play, and that's why he's been able to be as durable as long as he's been.
Well, congratulations to Alexander Ovechkin. We'll see what's to come as far as another run at the Stanley Cup. Capitals have had a great season, but this was a moment we were all hoping would happen this year. We knew it was going to happen. We just didn't know if it would happen this year or not.
Yeah,
he got it done. Great job by Alexander Ovechkin. He's now one of the legends in the NHL for all time. We still have a lot more to come. The wild card spots in the East and the West are getting a little closer and closer to getting locked down. We'll talk about that next year on Locked On NHL Game Time. Hey, you just realized your business needs to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored job posts will post your site at the top of the page and help you find the right candidates faster. If you've been in that spot where you need to hire right away, the pressure's on, and every day without the right person is a setback, that's exactly when Indeed sponsored job posts come in handy. They'll make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. And now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed is all you need. All right, let's get on to the rest of the action on Sunday. And for fans of a certain age, always fun when Minnesota's current team takes on Minnesota's former team. It was the Wild hosting the Stars in the state of hockey. The Stars already clinching a playoff spot. The Wild are looking to do so, and they got a nice 3-2 overtime win. Let us check in with our local expert, the host of Locked On Wild, to get a report on this game.
I'm not kidding when I say Matt Boldy may have saved the season for the Minnesota Wild with a monstrous performance against Dallas. Hey everybody, Seth Topal, host of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, recapping a 3-2 overtime win for the Wild over the Dallas Stars. A reeling Minnesota Wild team desperate for points to stay ahead of Calgary. They fall behind in this one 1-0 before Matt Boldy bats a puck off the ice behind Jake Ottinger to tie the score at 1. Moments later, Marcus Foligno scores a goal to make it 2-1 at that point. The Stars tied it up. We head to OT. Matt Boldy draws a tripping penalty, and Marco Rossi on a beautiful feed from Matt Zuccarello scores to give the Wild the win and push themselves 6 points ahead of Calgary for the final wild card spot with a game coming up this weekend, a big tilt. So make sure you stay tuned to Locked On Wild wherever you listen to your podcasts.
All right, thanks to Seth Topal, our correspondent from Locked On Wild, and a big win for Minnesota. They just get their second win in their last 8 games. They're battling through a lot of injuries. They're hoping to get some big names back for the playoffs. But right now, 6 points back of Calgary for the final wildcard spot in the West. And again, they, as Seth pointed out, they play each other coming up on Friday, so a huge game, but a big win for the Minnesota Wild.
Absolutely. It was a huge win when you consider that this is a team that was looking to grasp onto any sort of straw of confidence. And as far as the game is concerned, the thing that I really found to be amazing is the fact that Minnesota continued to just stay in it. And in the third period, most notably, where they outshot the Stars 17-4. But the thing that stood out to me in this game was the moment that Matt Boldy, he tied it up at 1 at 3:08 of the third period, like on a shot that was from between his knees in the slot, and then getting it, through like a loose rebound and so forth. So I think that when you talk about the Wild and what they were able to do, I think one aspect that really stands out to me is the grit and just the never say die attitude. And you saw that again, like when Marcus Foligno giving the Wild a 2-1 lead. But I also do think that the Wild at this point, they can ill afford to have any more mishaps. So you need to see a lot more consistency from what you've seen from the Wild in the last 8 games. And I think today was an important step in the right direction and where they hope to secure a playoff spot in the Western Conference.
Well, I agree with you. They've shown a lot of grit this year, and there's not many teams that have gone through the injury issues they've had, from Kirill Kaprizov, who was an MVP candidate at the beginning of the year, to lose a player like that. And yes, they've lost some traction in the standings, but when you lose a player like that and it doesn't torpedo your season, you stay afloat and you're in a position to get a wild card spot. Joel Eriksson-Ek is out as well. Two very important players. Give a lot of credit to the Minnesota Wild for hanging in there. If they get those two guys back for the playoffs, certainly it'll help their chances of trying to get an upset, but just getting into the playoffs right now for Minnesota, big win for them in this one on Sunday. As for the Dallas Stars, they won 7 in a row. Now they've lost 2 straight. They do pick up a point, though, for the overtime loss. 3 points back of Winnipeg for first in the Central. So we thought the Jets were going to run away with the Central. Not quite yet. And also for the Stars, 7 points up on Colorado for second place on home ice in the first round of the playoffs.
And speaking of the Stars, just real quick, one thing I do find interesting is that I'm seeing that Mikko Rantanen is really getting more comfortable in this new system that he's getting accustomed to playing with the Dallas Stars. And I thought that Rantanen really showed up in the third period where he definitely played a big role, especially when Thomas Harley tied up at 2-2. I thought that Rantanen, not on that particular play, but in the way that he was able to influence the way that the Wild were defending in their own end. I think that with Rantanen becoming more comfortable in Dallas' system, that's going to be huge for the Dallas Stars, especially as they look to make another deep run in the playoffs.
Well, we talked about the Wild trying to get a wild card spot in the West. The Montreal Canadiens are looking good to get that final wild card spot in the East as they hold off the Predators for a 2-1 win. Apologies to our local expert, Ian Waver. We had some technical issues with his video, so we were not able to get his report on this show. But we will tell you a couple of rookies standing tall in this game, another one all season. But we'll start with goaltender Jakub Dobeš, allowed just 1 goal on 36 saves. And the 1 goal he allowed was a terrible giveaway that let Steven Stamkos walk on in alone and score. We did have a goofy goalie interference call that did help out Montreal as well.
Yeah.
But Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield continue to lead this team. Caulfield getting his 36th goal of the season on an assist from Suzuki, and Patrick Laine gets the game winner, his 20th of the year. Shockingly enough, not on the power play. But I know a guy you wanted to talk about, Shu, Lane Hutson. Beautiful assist on that Laine game-winning goal. He leads all rookies with 63 points on the season. And when you're talking about Rookie of the Year, the Calder Trophy, I think his name's got to be at the top of the list.
I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that Lane Hutson's name is on top of that list. In fact, right now on March the 6th, Lane Hutson is going to be your Calder Trophy winner. Book it. Frame it. Do whatever you want to do with it. I'm calling it right now because you can't talk about the Montreal Canadiens being in the position that they're currently in right now, about to make the playoffs for the first time in the course of a full season, non-COVID since 2016-17, without talking about Lane Hutson and what he's meant to the Montreal Canadiens. And you saw it yet again today, the impact that he has had on this team in terms of his ability to create offense, and then as well as the timely goals as well. But I absolutely want to touch on something interesting here in regards to Cole Caulfield, because Cole Caulfield, yes, he scored in this game, but he's part of an impressive young core for this Montreal Canadiens team. Caulfield, we talked about Hudson, Nick Suzuki. You can't talk about the Canadiens without talking about the fact that this young core has come up so huge, especially in the last 3 weeks, in terms of timely goals, big plays late in games, whether being late in the third period or in overtime. And today was another example, but this time Lane Hutson, who has, for me, solidified his name in terms of being the Calder Trophy Award winner for this season.
Yeah, you came into the season talking about Macklin Celebrini in San Jose, Matvei Michkov in Philadelphia. I thought Dustin Wolf had a really good season minding the net in Calgary, but in the end, all those teams are not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
Lane Hutson and the Canadiens looks like they're going to get in. He's helped lead the way, and I think you're right. I think he is going to win the Calder Trophy as Rookie of the Year. By the way, I mentioned 63 points for him this season. He's tied with Hall of Famer Chris Chelios for the most in franchise history by a rookie defenseman. He's going to break that record. It's been an amazing year for Lane Hutson. And for Montreal, their 5th win in a row, 6 points up on the Rangers for that final wildcard spot in the East. And we want to talk about the Ottawa Senators holding on to the number 1 wildcard spot in the East. They get a 4-0 shutout win over the Blue Jackets. Let's check in with our local expert, one of the co-hosts of Locked On Senators.
Senators continue to pull away in the Eastern Conference wildcard race with a 4-0 win over the Columbus Blue Jackets. I'm Brandon Pillar from the Locked On Senators podcast, and it's back-to-back games where the Ottawa Senators find ways to shut the door and blank out their opponents, with Anton Forsberg getting the shutout on Saturday night and Linus Ullmark getting a 30-save shutout today up against a rival Eastern Conference team in the Blue Jackets. The Ottawa Senators now sit comfortably in that first wild card spot, and with 90 points in the regular season, they are sitting in a great spot. Can't wait to get that X beside their name, hopefully soon, for Ottawa Senators fans.
And the reason why Brandon is smiling from ear to ear is it looks like Ottawa is about to snap a 7-year drought of not being in the playoffs. So understandable why he's excited about being back in playoff hockey. And Linus Ullmark, this is why they went out and got him. You know, as a Bruins fan, he played for your Boston team and it was so good. He's got 10 wins in his last 13 starts. He's allowed 20 goals in those 10 wins. He is starting to get the job done if he can stay healthy and backing stop the Ottawa Senators, it looks like, back into a playoff position.
And you know, the big story for the Ottawa Senators has been their goaltending. And for Ullmark, as you just mentioned, this is his 4th shutout of the season. And this is also coming on back-to-back shutouts, as it was just mentioned. Anton Forsberg, he had a 40-save shutout and a 3-0 shutout win over the Florida Panthers on Saturday as well. So to me, the story of the Ottawa Senators in this run in recent games has been the goaltending. And you're going to need that in spades. And we talk about the health of Linus Ullmark being the reason why you needed to have that backup goaltender. That was the case when he was a Bruin. And now this season, he's been healthy by and large part. And I think that when you talk about the Senators in terms of their playoff push, a big reason, a big component has been the stability in between the pipes, and as well as you're getting contribution offensively. And shout out to Nicholas Mantapolo, who scored his first NHL goal in this game, by the way. So I think if you're the Ottawa Senators, you gotta like what you're seeing in terms of the goaltending. And also, by the way, the Senators, they have a home shutout streak right now at 153 minutes consecutive and counting, and that's the longest since the 2016-17 season. So that goes to tell you that the goaltending is a major reason and a big backbone for this Ottawa Senators success as of late.
No Brady Tkachuk again in this game for Ottawa as he's nursing the injury. Looks like, though, they'll be able to rest him in time for the playoffs. Ottawa, by the way, is only 4 points back of Florida for 3rd place in the Atlantic. We'll talk about the Panthers and their issues coming up here in just a bit. And real quick, I wanted to touch on the Blue Jackets. I was rooting so hard for him. We know the tragedy with Johnny Gaudreau. They had a huge win in the outdoor game, and for some reason, since that game, they just haven't been the same team. Their record is 4-11-1 since that big win over Detroit in the game there at Ohio Stadium. So and it looks like the Blue Jackets, they're not eliminated officially yet, but it's been an up and down season for a young team. Hopefully their future is going to be bright, but that's a tough loss for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Hey, up next, the defending Stanley Cup champs, maybe in a little trouble, maybe. And Shu will have his 3 stars of the night. Gee, I wonder who the number 1 star is going to be. That is next here on Locked On NHL Game Night. Hey, did you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Now, Shu doesn't because he's loaded, but I do that sometimes. Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. Where you get Monarch Money, and when it comes in, it will give you a personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it is a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch Money to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing your money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. All right, we told you about the Ottawa Senators creeping up on the Florida Panthers for 3rd in the Atlantic. They were helped out by the Detroit Red Wings knocking off the defending champs 2-1. Alex DeBrincat gets his 35th of the year. Great shot off the post on the power play. JT Compher scores the game winner, but Cam Talbot stood tall in this one. 32 saves, including some high-quality saves in this one. Big win for Detroit. 6 points back of Montreal for the final wildcard spot in the East, and they play each other coming up on Tuesday. As for Florida, they've lost 5 in a row. It's their longest losing streak of the season. They didn't have Alexander Barkov in this game. Still no Matthew Tkachuk. Aaron Ekblad is suspended. I know they're going to all say, well, we know how to win in the playoffs, and they do, obviously, but not playing their best hockey right now are the Florida Panthers.
It's bad news. You don't want to go into the postseason leaking oil. That's not what you want to have happen. But here's the reality of where the Panthers are currently right now. The reality is that Barkov, he didn't play in today's game due to the upper body injury. Matthew Tkachuk, also upper body injury. They did rest Sam Bennett and Sam Reinhart in preparation for the Stanley Cup playoffs. But the horrible truth is this. The truth is that they're not scoring. They're not scoring. Between getting shut out in Ottawa and then only scoring 1 goal today against the Detroit Red Wings, it's just problematic offensively for a team that absolutely needs to get going offensively and find their game. Now, I'm not concerned about Brad Marchand's ability to find his way and to be able to ultimately fit in this lineup. He will, but I do wonder about the health of this team going into the postseason, because they have played a lot of hockey the last couple of years. And I'm a firm believer in the war of attrition for the Florida Panthers. So I wonder, is the war of attrition starting to catch up to them at the wrong time? But you got to give credit where it's due, because Detroit Red Wings head coach Todd McLellan did say, he talked about it after the game. He said, good goaltending gives you an opportunity to win the game. And that's what Talbot has given them right now. So the Red Wings are getting good goaltending, but on the Panther side, offensively, they just kind of hit a drought. And I'm concerned, and you should be concerned if you're a Panthers fan.
By the way, 1-4-1 the record with Brad Marchand in the lineup. Golden Knights beat the Canucks 3-2 in the last game of the night. Victor Olofsson gets the game-winning goal with just over 3 minutes to play. Vancouver remains 8 points out of the final wildcard spot in the West with 5 to play, so they pretty much got to win out. For Vegas, now 5 points up on my LA Kings for first place in the Pacific Division. Vegas, we know obviously they're going to be in the playoffs. I think they're going to be able to hold off the Kings and win the division. But for Vancouver, they're not officially eliminated yet, but going from winning the division a year ago, all the drama this year, the soap opera with JT Miller and Elias Pettersson, Quinn Hughes has been banged up. He's trying to will this team in, but he's just not healthy, but he's playing through it. Now you've got drama with maybe Rick Tocchet leaving for Philadelphia in the offseason. It's been a very, very tough year for the Vancouver Canucks.
It certainly has. And like tonight, as I was watching the game, the thing that I kept thinking to myself is, you really could have used a lot more from Brock Bosa this year, Brock Besser. And I think that this year, despite the fact that it had been a down year for him, that if he was in any other year, he would have been more of a force offensively than he had been this particular season. And as you mentioned, it has been a tough year for the Vancouver Canucks for a number of reasons. I thought that Jake DeBrusk would be more of an impact player than he has been. He has performed well offensively, but at the same time, the issues with this lineup has been pretty much like up and down this entire season, and the lack of consistency. Plus, you look at the division that they're playing in the Pacific. So if you're playing in such a strong division, you can't afford any mishaps. And the Canucks dug themselves too far of a hole where they're worried about trying to catch up with the likes of the Kings, they've got that playoff position solidified, and as well as Edmonton as well.
Blackhawks beat the Penguins 3-1. Chicago had already been officially eliminated from the playoffs. With that loss, the Penguins joined the Blackhawks officially out of the postseason for a second straight year. And this is a team that 18 of the players on their current roster are all signed for next year, some of them multiple years. Mm-hmm. The future does not look bright for the Pittsburgh Penguins.
I'm concerned. And it goes back to last offseason as to, Kyle Dubas and the moves he made. He went out and he acquired, Kevin Hayes, and as well as Matt Grzyk in free agency. But I just knew going into the season that they just did not have enough to be able to make a legitimate playoff push. And I'm starting to get frustrated as a hockey fan because of the fact that you want to see Crosby and Malkin and Chris Letang in the postseason. But here's the harsh truth of the matter. Goaltending, they just don't have enough. And then two, they don't have enough offensive support from the forward group for them to make any sort of substantial run. So unfortunately, it's really been more of the same in terms of being offensively challenged. And as well as you going up against a rebuilding team like Chicago Blackhawks, in which that they've got nothing to lose. So like Mike Sullivan said it after the game, like they just didn't have enough to get over the hump tonight. And that's been the story for much of the season for the Penguins.
And one final game before we get to Shoes 3 stars of the night. His Boston Bruins losing to the Buffalo Sabres by a score of 6-3. Tage Thompson is a beast. He got a hat trick. Goals 41, 42, and 43. The Sabres are not officially eliminated from the playoffs, but they will be soon. And for Buffalo, it'll be extending their franchise record 14 straight seasons without playoff hockey.
I wonder, like, if that's even an NHL record, or at least approaching an NHL record for.
It's an NHL record. It is.
Like,
yes, it
14
is.
straight years. I mean, my God. I mean, I can't imagine camels going that long without water. That's what the Buffalo Sabres are doing, going that long without water.
They're
so with
poor
that
fans, yes.
Poor Buffalo fans. I'm sorry. I don't mean to pound on Sabre fans, but the suffering is palpable. But I will say this, though. Tage Thompson, one of the best young goal scorers in the league, had another monster game against the Boston Bruins. Stop me if you heard this before. And as far as the Boston Bruins are concerned, it's paperback season. They're out of it. They're officially eliminated. And this was more of the same. They start strong, but then as the game progresses, they just cannot keep the foot on the gas. And that was really more of the same today as it pertains to the Boston Bruins as well.
All right, there's not a lot of drama about who's going to be the number one star of the night, but it is time for Shukri Wrights 3 stars of the night.
Well, my 3 stars of the night are presented to you by yours truly, Shukri Wrights, and I can't speak for Eddie. He may disagree, but that's okay. So the 3rd star of the night for me is none other than Linus Ullmark, shutout in Ottawa. The 2nd star of the night for me, Tage Thompson. I mean, Tage the Rage Cage. I mean, a hat trick against the Boston Bruins. And then the 1st star, I mean, come on. We're talking about history here. Alexander the Great, the Conqueror, Ovechkin. He's the 1st star of the night.
He's probably the number 1 star of the NHL season. That will do it for the first ever episode of Locked On NHL Game Night. You got a taste of some of our local experts in the show. Make sure you check out their Locked On NHL shows of your favorite NHL team. They'll keep you updated all season long. They are your team every day. I'm Eddie Garcia. He is Shukri Wrights. Thank you for listening and watching Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day.